It's been a while since we talked about Giles Kristian's first book, God of Vengeance, the first book in the Rise of Sigurd series. And I'm finally back with a review of the sequel, Winter's Fire, which came out quite a while ago. Let's see if we can find it. 2016, so it's almost 10 years old. Better late than never, I guess. It's a little worn. I wasn't too nice to it when I was reading it. So, of course, the first one, God of Vengeance, and Wings of the Storm is the next one. We will be looking at Wings of the Storm at some point, but I don't currently own it, and I have a long list of books I already own we're gonna go through. But let's start talking about the cover here. The cover is definitely Sigurd. Or I say definitely, I assume. I love the realistic armor. I love the realistic axe, that it's not some huge two-handed broad. Like those exist, of course, but that's not what he's been using. I find it weird we get an axe because he uses Troll Tickler, his sword. But I otherwise love it. I am not fan of this. Not fan of the Sunday Times best-selling author. And the penguin logo is a little annoying because it just clashes coloring wise. But I think the cover itself, which is done by it usually says that here, cover photography by Jonathan Ring, and the back is Archangel photography, also pretty nice picture. And the design is done by Stephen Mulcahy, or TW. And I think it's a nice looking book. It is thematic. It takes place in winter, and the color scheme fits. It looks realistic. It's nice and muted for the cold. I like it. It's a little on the boring side, but it's, when you look at, because we can see the first book here. When we look at the first book, I think it's a improvement. And then we look at the third book, and we still have the axe, which still makes no sense to me. The book itself follows roughly right after the first one, and Kristian knows that that it might have been a while since readers last time read the first book, like probably a year if you read it right away, more if you're me. And so of course remembering all the small details here and there is gonna be difficult. And so the way he solved that is naturally in like telling the story, but incorporating references and explanations, like just short one-liners here and there, explaining what happened in the previous book, or have characters talk about it and reminisce and drawing parallels. And most of the time I feel it works. Not always. It works some of the time, most of the time it works, but it also doesn't quite hit it always. It does sometimes feel like, oh, reader, do you please remember this thing? It is very important right now. Something I do appreciate about him is Kristian definitely, as with the first book, looked into what is the culture, the historical, what are things called of the time. Kristian, as far as I can tell, is a British author, so his ancestors are keenly aware of what the Vikings or Norsemen who went Viking could do. And so what I really appreciate is all the things are still named in their Swedish, Norwegian or Danish names. Of course, then you have like Fugløy and Sikringsskala, which then of course we get, for instance, it doesn't say, but Fugløy means Bird Island, and Sikringsskala means the Shining Hall or something. And of course, when you read that, you're like, and if you don't speak the language, you don't know. So what he does is then have people like comment or think about why is it called that. For instance, Fugløy, like, yeah, a lot of islands are named Bird Island because Norway has a lot of islands up here, and some of them will be filled up with a lot of birds. So of course, a lot of time people are gonna call them Bird Islands. So when they start talking about it, they're like, yeah, that makes no sense for us. Why? Like, that does not explain anything. And Sikringsskala, they talk, isn't that what it's called? it's skiringssaler. They of course talking about the like they shine, and then they discuss like why is it called that, and when they get there they realized why, and it's just great. And another thing he does great is it kind of gonna sound weird, but magical realism. Because the story itself doesn't quite have any magic, but we still have Cedar, and we still have the gods. Cedar, of course, the witches, or also the gods' magic. So we do have some kind of magic, because, of course, Asgard, the priest, I guess you can call him, kind of commune with runes and the gods, and that gives him a lot of information on what is going on. While the Cedar Witch we meet early on apparently could tell who Sigurd was and knew how to find him all the way early, and it was just really, like, normally you would say it doesn't fit, but Kristian for some reason makes it, and that is so weird to me. Like, it shouldn't work. It should be like, haha, I got magic. Oh no, you're the only mage here. It makes no sense, but it makes sense. Why does it make sense? I don't get it. It's blended in so well. I think it's with the fact that everyone is scared, and it isn't as common. It's very rare. Oh well. Another thing that I like a lot that he's done. I'm gonna talk about a few negative things at some point, don't worry. I also have my gripes with this book. Let's see if we can find it. It's usually just like nearly on every page, but specifically was one of the I guess now we could, of course, the few pages I tried I couldn't find any classic, but that's the usage of, like, not only place names but also just words. Like, he will weave in just enough. So for instance, at some point they are in what is basically Skåne, or part of Sweden. I actually don't know when. I guess not Skåne but Sweden. And isn't it? It's really weird. So I think they're like in Västergötland. No, they must be in Ekdal. It doesn't matter. They come across this like family that they're gonna be raiding to get food, and they use like he puts in phrases like mormor and stuff, which means grandma, specifically on your mother's side, in both, I assume both Norwegian, Swedish and Danish. Couldn't see why it wouldn't, but beside the point, like, he puts in random Scandinavian words in the speak, just to show they are, and I like that a lot. I really do. So yeah, I really think that's a well done and well thought out thing. It does not feel awkward. It doesn't come off as weird. You do at times, even I being from Denmark and understand Norwegian and Swedish somewhat, do at times are like, oh, what does this word mean? And that of course do bring you out of the story. But I think Kristian does a great job of ensuring that even at those times you're still being pulled right back in. Now, is the book perfect? Absolutely not. It has a lot of weird contrivances. The entire story, I know Sigurd is supposed to be Odin favored and Odin kissed and all that, but it's a little too convenient at times feeling. Like, it feels a little on the convenient side at times, with some of the things, especially the plan for taking the... oh yeah, right, that's actually... So one of the things is he calls it a borg. I assume in Norwegian it's borg, but borg in Danish, which means castle. And that's like one of the final things in chapter 14 or 15. And of course it's a brilliant tactic, but at no point did I feel like it wouldn't work. It was just a little too easily thought through. And then also at times with his things that named a little literal, or if they aren't, he will point it out. Runa is named after runes, of course. Like, it's the Norwegian word for runes. And of course she gets not of course, but she gets a scar across her head. And someone points out, it looks like it reminds me of a rune, like your name. It's a little on the clumsy side. Had he just says, oh, it looks a little like a rune, she could have been just like, no comment on it, her being her name, but that would be enough for us all to go, oh, just like her name. And then she could have been proud and all that, and that would have been awesome. That would have been so fun. But sadly, no. And it is a little like that. There's also a huge amount of time spent on describing people shitting and going for a piss and spitting out phlegm and stuff like that. And it's a little too much. Like, I get what he's trying to go for. These are rough, barbaric people and all, but that's not really who they are. That's just like, yes, men do that. Men are disgusting. But you don't have to point it out all the time. It kind of pulls you out and makes you question what he wants to tell you about these Norwegians. Are he colored because he's British? Yeah, I don't know. Probably. I assume he's British, by the way. Because that makes sense in my head. He could be American, actually. At least it's published by Penguin Random House UK, so, you know. We'll take it. But that's the, like, it's all of those, and it's a bunch of small things. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have. Let's conclude on this very short little mini review of. Is this a good book? Yes. Should you read it? If you like Vikings, if you like historical fiction with just a tiny bit of magic, this is absolutely a book for you. I think it is fun. It took me 2 days or so to read. Like, I just spammed through it. It's so interesting. It's so fun. I think it is an joy to read. It is a breath of fresh air reading his books if you're a fan of Vikings. Because they're not over the top, these big, burly, manly men in this, like, they're not described, all of them are not described as bears. Of course, some of them are, because some Scandinavian people are quite huge, which I'm not one of. I am a bit on the smaller side when it comes to height and width, except for the stomach, beside the point. So, of course, yeah, that makes sense. And these are terrifying, amazingly powerful, strong warriors. But they're also humans. They're also just people. And they are definitely funny. Overall, I think if you like a more gritty realism and more down-to-earth take on Vikings, a more, this is how, when Norse people went the Viking in the year 750 or something like that. Like, this is right around when the what's it called? The Christian people showed up. So I don't know. Yeah, no, it doesn't say. Usually it says map age, but it doesn't say. Usually right on the map. I don't think you will find it here because it's. Oh yeah, there we go. I said 750, 785. And so there are a bunch of there are not a bunch, but there are a few references. We are definitely seeing the world moving. We're learning a bit about how the Scandinavian people see King Carl of France, Francia and stuff. We are seeing a little. We are definitely learning, but we're also seeing that not everyone has a sword or an axe, or a fighter's axe, a battle axe, and armor, and like it's funny and it's interesting and it's a breath of fresh air. So if you're into Viking stuff and want a bit more, less the fantasy over the top and more the down to the earth, what it might actually have been, this is a great book, but with still a little bit of cedar going on. So I can only recommend it. Next time we're gonna look at Bloodmarked, the second book in the Legendborn cycle by Tracy Deon.